Hey everyone, doing well, one hopes. No guitar, feels kind of weird. Now, it's not often that I do a strictly commentary-like video without any guitar playing whatsoever. However, this topic is near and dear to me as it's to do with what is likely my favorite album of all time. And I wanted to share my thoughts on it, and as I have no friends, it looks like you guys win out. I also tend to keep my negative musical opinions to myself here on my channel, trying my best to keep things as positive as possible at all times. Well, today, not so much, I suppose. Now, as you may or may not know, Roger Waters has re-recorded and reimagined Pink Floyd's classic album Dark Side of the Moon, which will be released in its entirety this coming October. However, he's been trickling out promotional tracks here and there over the past couple of weeks. Money about a month ago, and a few days ago we got the release of his new version of Time. Now, I had rather low expectations with regards to this, in my opinion, misguided musical adventure by Roger Waters, but I was still curious to see what he would ultimately do with these legendary tracks. Tracks that are, in my opinion, quite simply unimprovable by anybody, including founding member Roger Waters. Now, with regards to the age-old Pink Floyd question of who do you prefer, David Gilmore or Roger Waters, my preference has always sided heavily with David Gilmore, and not strictly because of his guitar playing, because to be fair, his incredible playing always shone through, even on the most heavy-handed of the Roger Waters dominated albums and tracks. Now, of course, we all have our own reasons for loving Dark Side of the Moon, but to me, over and above all else, was David Gilmour's voice. The voice that dominated the entirety of Dark Side of the Moon, save the final track, of course. His clear, soothing, and quite frankly, lovely singing voice remains a big reason as to why Dark Side of the Moon is likely my favorite album of all time. Now, sure, the concept, the music, and the arrangements are great, hell, beyond great. Roger's lyrics, of course, are amazing. All of the instrumentation was fantastic, especially the guitars. And the production on top of all of this, spearheaded by sound engineer Alan Parsons, remarkable, to say the least. Yet it's Gilmour's voice that ties it all together for me, and that ultimately sells and solidifies the whole package. Albeit, of course, with Roger's brilliant lyrical content. But like I said, this is just my opinion of this album. However, I feel that I'm not alone here in this thinking. So then, with that said, now what we have is a new reimagining of Dark Side of the Moon without David Gilmour's voice. And it goes without saying, I suppose, his guitar playing. What we do get is Roger Waters' old man voice, which, while never my preference when compared to Gilmore, even when Roger Waters was younger and stronger of voice, his voice now is nothing more than a spoken half-whisper most of the time. Very monotone, flat, and abbreviated, and, well, to be quite frank, boring. At least from the first two tracks released thus far from this Roger Waters solo version of Dark Side of the Moon, Money and Time, he seems to have basically taken all the life and spark out of both tracks. Not only with his rather drab interpretation of those brilliant lyrics, but also with the sparse and rather lifeless instrumental arrangements on each track that he's released thus far. That said, I'm rather curious to see how he will manage to pull all the light from the great gig in the sky. Will he just, quietly hum his way through it? God forbid. Needless to say, at this point, that I don't like it. Not even a little bit. And other than with mild curiosity, will I check out the rest of the album when it's finally released. It's most definitely, from what I've heard so far, not an album that I need in my life. I don't think that it's an album that anyone needs in their life, or asked for that matter. Save for the Roger Waters superfans out there, I suppose. So why did he do it? Well, who knows? Ego, money, lack of any other good musical ideas to build upon at this point in his career. Now, his response is that at the time, in the mid-70s, not enough people recognized what it was actually about and what it was that he was trying to say. So he's re-recording and reimagining the whole album to more strongly get the word out there as to what Dark Side of the Moon was really about, as far as what he wrote and initially imagined it to be way back when. And to that I say nonsense. The millions of us who bought and rebought again this album over the years, listened to it relentlessly and marveled at its brilliance on pretty much every level, including those fantastic lyrics. We got it, you know, it's deep, but it's not that deep. We don't need to be walked through it again as you hold our hand and guide the way with half-whispered spoken word musings. Now, it should be enough that you were a major part, a very major part, in creating what many feel is the greatest album of all time. That legacy should be enough. You know, you currently sit way up there in the rarefied air of musicians and songwriters who've created what many feel is a musical work of absolute perfection, a masterpiece, if you will. That should be enough. So then, to tarnish that legacy in any way whatsoever, with what I'm sure will go on to become just a mild curiosity for most fans of this brilliant album, it's a rather odd, unnecessary, and misguided decision, to put it mildly. You created perfection 50 years ago, and perfection, of course, cannot be improved upon, only diminished. And I feel that that is exactly what you are doing with this reimagining and re-recording of Dark Side of the Moon. And that, as they say, is all I've got to say about that. Agree, disagree, drop a comment down below in the comment section and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, as always, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.